Hello, I see everybody starting to trickle in. That's good.
Good morning.
I think I see Lear was waiting for Dale. Is he coming?
Yes, I'm just promoting him to a panelist. He should be showing up here shortly. Zoom's been a little finicky this morning, but we should get it. Thanks, John.
I think we just had Nick join us. Lisa, do we want to do roll first, or are you doing that off of the attendee list?
You know, actually, if I could just call roll, that works really great on this side of things, if that works for you.
Certainly, yes, go ahead.
All right. Bear with me here just a second. All right, Bruce Bender. Does not look like Bruce is here quite yet. Maria Chestnut.
Present.
Dwight Easton.
I'm here.
John Freer.
Yes.
Peter Walker Kelleher.
Here.
Hank Trotter. Let's see, doesn't look like Hank is here yet. John Newman.
Here.
Right, so it looks like we have 2, 4, 5 present and 2 absent at this current point in time.
My chopped cheese today.
Let's see.
You did. I'm sorry. Did you catch Nick on that?
You know what? Let's see. Sometimes it's eScribe's an interesting program. Hold on here just a second. Okay. Yes, for some reason he's not on my list, but we will make note and make sure you get on the list, Nick. Sorry about that.
I think I'm on everybody's list, Lisa, so
So is it maybe a good thing you're not on mine? Is that a good thing?
yeah.
Thank you, Nick.
And then we have a new member joining us. I have not had a chance to speak with John yet, but John, would you like to introduce yourself to the group and give us a little update on why you're here? And
Sure. My name's John Newman. I'm an attorney here in Missoula. I was a land use planner with what was the Office of Planning and Grants before that. I've been in Missoula for a little over 15 years now. I was on the Consolidated Planning Board for about a decade, and I'm on the County Impact Fee Advisory Committee as well. And I have some legal experience with the Impact Fee scheme in Montana, both defending municipalities with respect to an impact fee program, and I've published an article about impact fee and cash in lieu sorts of exactions. So it's a subject that's near and dear to my heart in the planning and development context, and figured I could maybe contribute to the workings of the committee, and that's why I'm here.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for participating. And some may say this is probably the most exciting committee that the city of Missoula does have. Some may not. I don't know who they are, but thanks for helping out and volunteering. And yeah, absolutely. I think you're going to be a fantastic asset to the committee.
Thanks.
Welcome, John.
Thank you.
Next up, we've got approval of the minutes from our May meeting. I'm sure that everyone has read and reviewed. Any questions, comments, updates to the minutes? And I did see Bruce just jump on, so we've got him as well.
Yes, thank you.
Do we have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved. Dwight Easton.
We have second?
Peter will second.
Any further discussion? I see none. Do you have a poll for this, Lisa, or do we do voice vote, wave vote? How do you want to handle it?
Actually, if you can do a voice vote, that would be great.
Okay, so all those in favor of approval of the minutes from 5/27, say aye.
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 Opposed? Great, thank you.
And John, just one thing, when you come to the actual motions on the business, if you'd like me to, I can go ahead and call each person's name by vote and then record it specifically.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Next up is public comment. Do we have any public here? I don't think so. I see none. Great. So moving on, updates, project updates. First one's Public Works. Kevin, are you doing these, or Jeremy, are you doing these?
Yeah, I can start.
Great.
So yeah, I have 3 project updates. Mullen Road widening is the first one. And I was going to bring a new request for this project, but it's still not ripe. What occurred is we recently received a favorable consideration from MDT. And we essentially what we asked MDT to reconsider was a need to widen Mullen Road in order to install the 2-way center turn lane that will provide for the left turning movements from eastbound Mullen onto Chuckwagon Drive. We basically wrote them a nice letter saying that the existing width of Mullen Road in this section is the same as in other sections where there's already a 2-way center turn lane, and so we'd like to just do this as a striping improvement rather than a physical widening. And they agreed to that. And so we need to revise our plans, slightly and provide a different cost estimate for the project, as the project has been basically reduced in scope. So I don't want to bring anything to the committee until I know what the project estimate is. And so I think it's essentially still on hold for right now. I am looking to complete the design, have our consultant complete the design here fairly quickly in order to get the project out to bid, and hopefully the earlier we get it out to bid, we get more favorable bidding environment from contractors, because they're not busy with work yet. They haven't won projects and started their scheduling their work for next year. So we hope to get that done here real soon. But once once we figure out what the final funding allocation is going to be based on the revised project, I may be coming to the committee for a new request. Any questions?
Well, I see none. Thanks, Kevin.
And the project still does include a right turn deceleration lane. So that is still part of the project. The part of the project that we wouldn't do is the physical widening of the road for the left turn lane.
Kevin, I just want to thank you for the innovative approach to that. That approach saves the future homeowners out there an awful lot of money, and really appreciate it. Nice work. That's been a project that's in the works and concern to the folks out there for a long time. So very much appreciated.
Okay. Yeah, you're welcome. So the next one is South Avenue. We as part of our funding for the phase one of the project, we requested to receive a transportation alternatives grant that MDT administers. We recently received notice that we did not, that we were not being awarded any money from that grant source for this particular project. So what we need to do now is look at available funding sources and budgets to determine how we can fund phase one without the TA grant, and how we move that forward. So we'll be having internal meetings with staff to determine how we might still move the project forward. This is another one where I may bring a new transportation impact fee request to an upcoming meeting if that's what we feel is beneficial to the project and being able to move it forward. Any questions? Okay, and the last update that I have is for the George Elmer Cattle Drive Roundabout. We have been moving really quickly on this project in the design phase. We are past the 90% plan submittal, and we received a cost estimate along with those 90% plans that was really over our intended budget for the entire project. And so what we're kind of wrestling with at this point is whether to reduce the scope of the work to fit within the existing budget, or to potentially bring back another request or additional request to fund the project holistically. We believe that there's safety and functionality features that should be installed with the project initially. But we want to be sensitive to the funding side of things, and we want to know how that, if we ask for additional money for this particular project, we want to know what that is. We don't know what that is necessarily just yet. And we want to know how it impacts other projects that we have in the queue moving forward. So we'll do a little bit more homework and likely bring something back and ask for consideration.
Thanks, Kevin. Any other questions on that project or?
I just had one quick project. I do see the project update for the Mullen Road for what was sent out. And usually we have kind of a nice summary of all of them. Did I miss that somewhere?
Oh, that was, that was the Mullen Build project. I think Jeremy would likely talk about that one. Yeah, you're right. We skipped that one. Sorry.
Oh, no, the information that was sent out prior, we usually get a written summary of the project's updates. Did I miss that, or was it just verbal this time?
Maria, I'm seeing one for the Lower Miller Creek Road. That was one of the ones in one of the attachments.
Yes, hold on.
Bria, would you like me to resend you the packet of information? That'd be helpful.
No, I am seeing the
Yeah,
packet. I feel like,
Maria, I believe there's one for the Mullen Build project, but I think the widening and the George Elmer one, I don't think there was anything sent out. I think that they were just verbal updates, correct, Kevin?
That's correct.
okay, then I have everything. Thank you.
Jeremy, did you have an update on the Mullen Build then? You want to jump in?
Yeah, I do. Thanks. So we did provide a written update on Mullen Build because it's fairly complicated, and I wanted you to have a chance to read that ahead of time. If you have any questions about it, I'll give you a brief overview of what's in that memo. So as you're all aware, we're working on this Mullen Build project, which has a federal grant involved, and we experienced quite a bit of inflation over the past year and had to delay the project start. We're still on track to break ground next spring, but we did have to go back and do some rescoping of the project to take some things out, and also go back and revise our budgets to make sure that we had enough money to cover those inflated costs. So that was unfortunate. Hard, it was hard to imagine that in the middle of a global pandemic and what looked to be an economic slowdown, we would see a whole bunch of inflation, but that's exactly what happened. And development and construction never really dropped off, at least in this area. And then we also ran into all these supply problems that really have increased the cost of materials and labor. So just kind of an interesting set of circumstances, but the team has done a good job in pivoting and figuring out ways to keep the project moving forward. I'm going to share my screen here. And this is the memo that you have in front of you as well. So you can follow along, but I do want to go to these tables. So previously, the Impact Fee Advisory Committee approved funding for 3 different projects: the Mullen George Elmer Signal, Mary Jane Boulevard North, Mary Jane Boulevard South, and these 3 totaled up to $3.484 million. All of these projects have been rolled into that build, what we're calling the Mullen Build CIP. So that CIP includes both this first phase, which is the federal grant, and it includes future phases that we'll need to do to build out the rest of the project. And so we plan to use these transportation impact fees towards those phases, both the first phase and those future phases. And then in addition to that, we put in place that new special impact fee, the new Sue Tupkane special transportation impact fee, which is intended to fund the gap on the rest of the project. So, fingers crossed we'll have enough money in there to get the whole project done with the inflation we've seen. But nevertheless, we are collecting that money now, and that will go towards building out those future phases. So in our budget process this year, this was the FY21 CIP. As it was laid out, we updated that and adjusted the numbers in FY22 and going forward based on the new costs for the project and what we think we're going to need to do. So the next table for FY22 is where we're at now. And this phase, this $19 million phase, is what we intend to break ground on construction this year or next year, sorry. And then what you see out here in FY25 is is kind of the rest of the project, and that will probably continue to evolve. I hope that we're continuing to do construction in 23 and 24, but we just, as a placeholder, have put it out there in FY25. So the other component of this is this Flynn Lowney ditch acquisition, and the reason it's part of transportation impact fees is that we've been working on acquiring the Flynn Lowney ditch, which has all sorts of benefits for the city, but one of the primary benefits to the build project is it reduces our infrastructure costs where we have to cross the ditch. So we have several major crossings that we would have to do pipes and other structures. And then we also have an issue with groundwater that the ditch causes where it affects the way we do storm drainage. And so by acquiring the ditch and decommissioning it, we reduce our infrastructure costs out there for the build project to the tune of about $625,000, likely more than that in the long run. And it also reduces the cost for other development to happen out there because they also will benefit from those storm drain issues that the ditch was causing. So, we've included this as kind of a partner CIP with the build project, where $625,000 of impact fee money would go towards the ditch purchase as a direct savings to the Mullen build project. And so that's included in that. So in this total amount that we plan to spend, the $3.4 million, the irrigation ditch portion of that is included in that 3.4 million. So there's no additional ask here. I just wanted to be transparent about how we're approaching the project and the way that money is being spent. So any questions about that?
Jeremy, this is Nick. So I spoke with Kevin earlier on his innovation in terms of getting those turn lanes without actually widening Mullen Road. Thank you for your tenacity and your innovation to keep that transportation system alive and on our radar screen for the future. Very much appreciated.
Hey, Jeremy, this is Peter, and maybe just make sure that I'm understanding this right. And you probably know there's slight discrepancy between the total that you have up above of the 3.484 million and then all of the funds that I see with the transportation impact fee in the three tables below. Maybe there's a difference of a couple $100,000 there. Is what accounts for that discrepancy there?
Yeah, the difference is the money that was already spent. I believe that, so there was a portion of this money that was spent in FY20 and also in FY21 that's no longer showing up in these two tables that you see now, FY22. So there was money that's already been expended.
Thank you.
No more questions yet. Thanks, Jeremy, and echo what Nick is saying. The creative problem solving never ends. So good work.
Thank you.
I think Ryan, you've got some updates for us, or what? Yeah, Parks and Recs is next. Yep.
Yeah, I believe so. Thank you all. I think we have updates on Community Center and Westside Park. So the Community Center public process to get to conceptual design phase is ongoing. We got our next working group meeting on September 28th and looking forward, and it's really looking like a nice design to the building. The architects and design team has done a really good job, and so we'll be getting feedback and then starting a next round of public process to get feedback on the conceptual design of the building and the programs at the building. So that's the community center update. We've really done a lot of outreach to going to places and talking with folks, as well as having a working group and a steering committee help guide that process. So happy to field more questions to the best of my ability on the community center. So any questions on that one? And then West Side Park. The construction of phase 1 at the preschool playground is complete. And I think I've transferred 100,000 of impact fees in fiscal year 21 to assist with that, and some to the capital fund. Some of those monies will also, of that 100,000, will also help with phase 2, and the fundraising is going well at phase 2, and we're expecting to order playground parts for a really awesome capacity increasing big playground to replace that well-loved wooden structure and bathroom elements, and it's been a great partnership with MCPS. We're very hopeful for LWCF grant on that one as well. We're in the final process of trying to get that done, and some other private donations, which we're really excited about. That's the West Side update. Anyone? I'm happy to answer more questions there too.
I see none, Ryan. I think you're off the hook on that. Yeah, so next up are new requests. Lower Miller Creek Road is our first one. Is that Kevin? Is that you?
Yeah, thank you, John. So previously IFAC had funded this project designed for $100,000 in October of 2018. Since then, we've had some change in scope. The change in scope is due to a recent development proposal on the adjacent property just north of the new elementary school, Jeanette Rankin. All the way, it's that entire property all the way to Old Bitterroot Road, which would be the extension of Lower Miller Creek Road if Lower Miller Creek Road didn't take the 90-degree turn where it does. So what that proposed development has done is started us down the path of looking at a roundabout at that 90-degree intersection that will be intersection of two collector roads. And so we are looking to provide for access control for that development. We believe that development will pay impact fees and pay for some of the improvements to that roundabout, but we want to include that roundabout design in this project and get that done. And we can fit that into our current project now. So that's the desire there. In addition, that proposed development is looking to have a storm drainage system that's piped instead of a sump system that we had originally contemplated. So what we want to do is we've been working with the engineers of that development. And I should say the name of the development. It's I think it's River Trails Development or subdivision. That's going into sufficiency review here real soon. And so anyway, back to the stormwater, it would be better for this project to basically dispose of the stormwater from the road and the other impervious surfaces like sidewalk into the storm drain system and basically have it manage it into a detention basin that proposed subdivision is going to construct and do that instead of having it go into the groundwater. It's better water quality to do it that way. In addition, we have looked to increase the limits of the project a bit. Previously, we had identified that we would make improvements up to Big Fork Road, but we're looking to finish the curb and sidewalk on the east side of the road all the way from, and another segment, if you will, from Big Fork over and up to Jack Drive, which is another basically 2 blocks, if you will. So for all those reasons, we're looking to ask for another $70,000 of impact fees to finish the design of the project and these new elements. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Hey, Kevin, this is Bruce. So this total project cost is still the number you have there for FY24. Is that still current, or will that change too? You got 1.79 million right now.
Yeah, that was the old estimate. We haven't completed the preliminary design and received a new estimate for the project yet. So yes, the cost will likely go up.
And the idea of funding it, I see most of it is going to be funded by assessments. Is that still the plan?
Yeah, the plan is to, and it says assessments here, but what we're planning on doing is an SID. So we'll look to we'll be working on it here fairly soon, which is to start looking at a proposed boundary for the project and who to include, and then try to determine project costs and then assess those costs to the property owners that are included within that district.
So why wouldn't you have a higher proportion of transportation impact fee with those improvements? Are you going to, I mean, it seems like logically you're going to come back and ask for more.
Yeah, there'll probably be a higher request from what you see in that table, 175,000 in FY24. But we don't want to bring that forward until we know what the costs are and what the boundary might be and how many properties will be included in the SID. So we just want to get a feel for potential costs to the property owners that will be included in that SID first before we bring an additional request for construction dollars to you.
So
Kevin, I'm sorry. I wasn't here, but I understand that previous boards have funded up to $100,000. What was the planning, or what was the outcome of that spend?
I'm not. I don't know if I'm familiar with that, or
maybe I misunderstood the conversation. I apologize. But
I think that,
okay. I'm sorry. I think I know what you're talking about. So a previous IFAC committee awarded or authorized $100,000 of transportation impact fee, and that was done almost 3 years ago.
And what was the outcome of that?
and so I think, Kevin, if I remember correctly, that was when the school was being built, there was no pedestrian access in that area, and that was a huge concern. And I think that was part of when that was developed, that money was part of what was used for a lot of the infrastructure around that area to provide pedestrian access. Am I remembering that ask? Is that one?
What I recall, the original ask was for the design services. So the $100,000 was to basically start the project and start designing it. And we've started, and we're at about a 60% design level. But we've had other elements basically come into the project since its inception, and that's what we're asking for now.
Yeah, Kevin, your project update includes that you requested design monies for that.
Does that answer your question?
I believe it does, Kevin. You said 60% design. Thank you.
I have a question. So I think that WGM Group worked on the design for this, Kevin, so I won't be voting on this to avoid the appearance of conflict, but I would like to discuss just a little bit. So, you know, you and Jeremy have been really innovative in your approaches, and really appreciate that. So I haven't followed SIDs for quite a while, but there used to be an administrative percentage fee and a revolving fund percentage fee that went on to an SID. And in addition to that, I think the construction has to pay Davis-Bacon prevailing wages for the construction of stuff used with SIDs. I don't know what that does with the project cost. I like SIDs because they go on the tax bill instead of on the mortgage payment. So the homeowner's actually paying $1 for every dollar of cost in the SID as an impact fee. If it goes on the mortgage, they're paying $1.65 for every dollar contributed. But can you talk to me a little bit about the public finance options relative to using the SID and impact fees?
I don't know if I'm the best to answer that. Potentially Lee or Dale, is that something that you want to discuss, or do you want me to do my best?
Well, I can take a stab at talking about the SID formats here. I think it is a good tool for us to be able to spread the costs amongst the direct beneficiaries of these types of improvements. Though it is, I mean, we do get a tax exempt rate. I mean, so the folks who are assessed are still paying interest. The interest goes on their tax bill, and then also the state required administrative fees aren't insignificant. There's a revolving fund contribution that is required, and all those things. So the competitiveness of the rate of an SID, while I believe better than a private mortgage, it's not as good as just a pure direct municipal bond because of some of these other administrative and revolving fund constraints, but it is a great tool. It is also subject to a protest provision too, so it's not the NSID itself is not a done deal when we start the project. We do have to we have to go through a council has to call for the adoption, and then there is a protest provision. So it took us, like Hillview Way as an example, it took us oh, I don't know how many years to get that done. 8 probably altogether, something like that.
I think so. I really appreciate the explanation, Dale. I mean, we have a housing policy now, and impact fee is part of the city and part of the overall consideration. So just trying to weave it all in. I really appreciate the explanation. I have no other concerns. Thank you.
John, if I could speak to the question as well. I think our approach here is to get engineering done, and which will give us a better handle on costs and on how to assess those benefits. So one of the things that's changed, as Kevin said, is since we started this project, which was really generated around the new school, we now have a development active on that. I guess it would be the west side of Lower Miller Creek Road. And so I think there's an opportunity there through the subdivision process that at least a portion of those improvements will get conditioned in with the subdivision. And then it's a matter of figuring out how you build the rest of the street and what's fair to assess to those property owners that are directly on Lower Miller Creek Road versus what's more general benefit and should be assessed wider or included with transportation impact fees. So I think there's still another step here once we get a better handle on the project to look at how it's funded for construction.
So any other questions, comments on this request? Anybody have a motion?
I move to approve.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion on the motion? So Lisa, do you want to do a roll call vote then?
I sure will. So Bruce Bender,
Yes.
Maria Chestnut,
Yes.
Dwight Easton,
Yes.
John Freer,
Yes.
Peter Walker Keller, excuse me,
Yes.
John Newman,
Yes.
Hank Trotter, of course, is absent, and Nick Kaufman will note that you're abstaining. So that is unanimous for all people in attendance.
Great. Thank you, Kevin. Ryan, you have Waterworks Hill request.
And Ryan is just because he lost power, he's on his way trying to get back in here. All right, he should be able to speak now.
All right, so
Yeah.
I'm on my phone now. My house just lost power. So, so I had everything pulled up to share a screen, but I will do it via memory. So this is impact fee request for the trailhead capacity increases at Waterworks Hill. This is an exciting project that has a lot of different funding sources. The overall project is a collaboration with Public Works and Parks and Recreation to basically redo the access road up to Waterworks Hill Trailhead, and then create a much larger trailhead with a much larger parking lot, about double the car spots, and also redo the trailhead components to get them up to increase capacity there. It also will provide a universal access trail around the city's property, Missoula Water property, and really hopefully provide some really good access to folks to get up above the Missoula Valley and get a great view. For impact fee funding, we took out any of the universal trail components, only considered the trailhead components, which are part of a park impact fee, and then asked for around, I think, based on increasing what we considered around 20 parking spots, which is about one side of that road. Now, people do, park, over park it right now. But it's about going from 20 safe parking spots to 40. And so we're asking, that came out to about 126,000, I think, if we did the math. And so we're asking for 125,000 of impact fees to help with this overall $800,000 project to redo the access road, hugely increase the trailhead. And I think it's a great project. There's also an RTP grant, city open space bond, 65 from Missoula Water, 65,000 from Missoula Water, and a lot of BARSA funds from that Public Works is putting towards the road portion of the project. So I think that's my from memory update, and happy to answer questions to the best of my ability.
Thanks, Ryan. Yeah, so this is one I actually intimately familiar with the trailhead and really stopped using it just because it's gotten so overcrowded and there's no place to park. And so, yeah, I agree. I think it's a great project, and will definitely be, will serve well up in that area. So.
Yeah, I agree. I use that trail myself, and it's really difficult to park on there.
Any other questions, comments?
I move to approve.
I apologize.
I think Dwight was trying to say something. He was muted. Go ahead.
You have to run the technology. Thank you. Ryan, you indicated in your presentation that there are a number of different funding sources, and I kind of had picked up on the BARSA funds that were before Public Works Committee Wednesday, so I've been yesterday. In there, it indicates that there'd be a matching from the city, and there's a couple of citations that park impact fees were being used as the match. Is this something you're going to be coming back to us for, or is this? I don't know if you're prepared to discuss that, but I just picked up on that.
Yeah, it wouldn't be something we'd be coming back for. I think, I discussed, I believe, with Allison 2 or 3 days ago, the match component of the BARSA. And there was, and I don't believe there is a requirement for the BARSA match to be used on road component. There's also, we put, I guess what I'm trying to say is the impact fees indicated were contingent on approval from this committee and from city council to use impact fees for this project. Does that answer the question?
I guess, are you anticipating future additional funds needed for the roadside, the development of the roads?
In my, I guess, Jeremy or Kevin might be better positioned to answer the roadside, but I do not believe so. I think with this ask of impact fees, the current project is of about 800,000. We're about 5,000 short, and we are going through value engineering options and ways to get that in line. And I think we have good conversations going with contractors to do that. So I don't anticipate more impact or more BARSA requests, but Jeremy or Kevin may be able to speak to that better than me.
Yeah, I'd be happy to speak to that. I think with the budget that we've put forward from BARSA and the bid prices that we received and the value engineering that we've recently completed, that we will have enough BARSA funding to construct the road improvements without coming back and asking for an additional allocation from this committee for transportation impact fees.
Thank you, and thanks for all your work in the value engineering side. Appreciate that.
Have any more questions? I think, Bruce, would you like to start your motion again?
Yeah, I move to approve.
Does anyone second?
I'll second.
Second by John. Any further discussion? All right, Lisa.
All right, Bruce Bender,
Yes.
Maria Chestnut,
Yes.
Dwight Easton,
Yes.
John Freer,
Yes.
Nick Kaufman,
Yes.
Peter Walker Kelleher,
Yes.
and John Newman.
Yes.
So it's unanimous for all in attendance.
Great, thank you. And yeah, thanks for great reports.
Thank
Made it fast and easy. So do we have any new business?
And John, this is Nick. I checked on my legitimacy. I'm a member of the board till 2024, so you're stuck with me. One of the things that Dale Bickle and I talked about at another unrelated meeting that I wanted to bring up, and John Newman, it's really nice to have you on board. We don't have to make any decisions on it today, but I'd like to start the discussion. And so impact fees are really necessary. You know, one of the things local government doesn't have is revenue. And state didn't help us out last year when they removed the gas tax that this community voted in, and actually collected quite a bit of money on. A lot of projects fell by the way. There's a definite need for impact fees, and there's justification for it under state law, and that's why we're here today. At the same time, the way we collect impact fees as upfront costs, they're added to the production costs of a home. And so a person buys that home, puts on a 30-year mortgage, and if you look at a 3.35% interest rate on an imagined $350,000 home, because you're not going to find one now, that interest rate over 30 years is about, the owner pays back about $1.65 for every dollar they borrowed. When Dale and I were talking, the city does have sewer and water fees. And if we could somehow collect impact fees over a 5-year period on the sewer and water fee, the homeowner would not be paying that mortgage interest rate. So in other words, the city gets a wonderful $1 well-deserved assessment on impact fee, but it really costs them $1.65. I think it put Missoula in a really innovative position if they could come up with something like that. And John, it might be something you want to think about on your impact fee committee for Missoula County. I'm not going to dine on my sword on this one at all, but I'm all about innovation, and I'm all about how to make housing more affordable in this community. Some of the trends that I see over on my side is a trend away from single-family home ownership to single-family homes that will be rental only. I see a trend away from builders like Ryan Fry, who did townhome exemption developments and infill development, getting out of the business. I see longtime builders like Wade Hoyt and David Edgel, who were in line to buy about 34 acres out in Flynn Lane, who gave up their option and are selling the other 18 acres. So housing is critical. It's an emergency in this community. I know the city's aware of it. But on the impact fee committee, if you'd like to engage in a discussion on how to assess those fees so the city gets full revenue and the homeowner pays $1 for every dollar that the city gets for impact fees, I think it would be a worthwhile discussion. Anyway, if you want to do that, great. If you don't, it's a fun thing to talk about.
Yeah, thanks, Nick. And I think we have had conversations about this multiple times in the past of what some type of a time pay mechanism, and maybe it is time that we revisit and see if there are other options to do it. I think, you know, if I recall, Dale, the last time we talked about it really was the mechanism to do it, the administrative cost to do it was really, I think, the hurdle at that current point in time. But I don't know if we've seen any other programs in other parts of the country, or you know, it could be another question for Tischler Bice and what they've seen, if there are some ways that we do that. But yeah, I think we've talked about it before, and I certainly think I'd be willing to put more energy into it. I just maybe something to think about before we reconvene again and have some more suggestions on it.
Nikki, you're muted.
I don't think we heard you, Nick. You were muted.
You're still muted.
You are, yes.
Am I muted now?
No.
Okay, thank you. The lights keep flickering. I think the spirit of a person who used to be in this office, who might be in this room, is sort of haunting it. I'm not quite sure. But anyway, we charge administrative fees for SIDs, and we might be able to do it. We might not. My purpose here isn't to create extra work for the city or put something burdensome, but I do think that Missoula is known for its innovation. and how to approach problems in ways that are different and set the stage so other communities can look around and say, hey, this is what those guys did. Instead of us looking over the fence, they can look over our fence.
Well, I would say, and Jeremy and Allison Siegel is on the call as well, that, we are actually well positioned. We're better positioned administratively now to deal with this. So we've completed our conversion of our utility billing onto one system. So all 3 of our utilities are on one system. We do have a practice of creating loans now. We have on our off of our utility bills related to water line extensions. And so we have some administrative capacity and expertise. Well, I'll say we have some administrative expertise. I think this is the time is, but I think it is a good time to start discussing alternatives like this. And so, I think prior to the next meeting, I think maybe we can sit down internally and see if we can come up with a mechanism that we might be able to do this. And I don't know how, but it's just a lot of ways, I think, to think about it. But it's something that we could do. We also have to be mindful, depending on the size of the project, and if it's for all of them, the city would have a cash flow problem, and so there would be an underlying financing, maybe similar to an SID, that we would have to figure out. However, I think it's a good idea, and I think something that's worth further discussion. So,
yeah, I agree, and thanks for bringing that up, Nick. And all of those things that we have looked at in the past, I think too, we had some discussions on from the affordability front too, and ways that we can lessen the impact of the impact fees. And so, based on what we do have as advisory committee fee work, I don't know if our workload is significant currently. Maybe it's a good time to add it into our next agenda and start to look at some of the ideas that might actually be feasible, and put some energy into it. So
I guess my concern is, where does it stop? Because you look at all of the permit fees that are going building a house, building permit, utility connection fees. Are you discussing all of those? Because all of those end up going into your mortgage. I mean, I don't know why impact fees are separated from those fees.
yeah, I'm not sure I have an answer to that question, Bruce. I don't know if Dale does, but I think that may be, I think let's put it on the agenda for the next meeting and maybe do some homework internally before that, so we can discuss that a little bit more detailed.
I think Bruce makes a really good point. I think we should look at all those. And again, if every committee for the city works inside a silo, and we forget about what the overall goals and objectives are. I drove by the tent city in front of the old YWCA at Poverello on the way to work this morning, right? That's a tearjerker for me. There are 500 families in this community that are homeless. As in the private sector, we try to do smaller homes like a carriage home or a home above a garage. We're finding that it's so expensive that it's beyond the market demand for it. So if we try to build the smaller homes, people can't buy them. That's where we're at in this community. So when do you want to start having a discussion that helps with the problem?
So, I appreciate the mention of the gas tax, because obviously that's one of our problems, is that our limited options for the way these things get assessed is really a big part of the problem, in that everything falls back to property taxes. So figuring out how we apply those costs at the right time when that infrastructure is needed. So, one of the discussions we're having right now is when do we require right-of-way improvements, in particular sidewalks, and is there an argument that when we have a neighborhood that doesn't have any other sidewalks and we don't connect anything, do we require sidewalks for an individual project that's going in, where it doesn't really provide any immediate public benefits. So I think being smart about when the infrastructure is actually installed is part of this. So that way it doesn't go on somebody's mortgage for years and years before there's really any benefit to having it. The flip side to that is if you need a road or you need a water main extended to support that development, there's a cost to that up front that we have to provide. And Dale's point is that, that burden of financing that cost could fall to the city, and that creates the cash flow problem for us. So, timing is important, and understanding what we actually need. I personally think we need a system that rewards development that requires less infrastructure. So, the projects that are infill that don't have the same impact on our system that say a new, outlying greenfield subdivision should have a mechanism to allow that to happen with less of that upfront cost.
So we'll as a staff brainstorm a little bit on what something like this might look like, and see if there's and see what our attorneys think about it.
Yeah, thanks, Dale. I think it is, a more formal discussion would be useful at our next meeting, which is what the last agenda item is. What is our next meeting schedule? What's our target?
I've not gotten any notification to schedule, but I know that the group usually tries for once a quarter. So is there a month coming up that would work best for everyone? I could try to find a spot on the calendar.
How about not December? So maybe January.
Sounds good to me, if that works for everybody. All right.
So we either have 56 minutes for Bruce to take his guitar down off the wall and play, or
It's all image, John. It's all image. It's part of the wall decoration.
okay. Or we could entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn. I seem to be the only
I was getting nervous for a second there.
Bruce, I'll second it.
All those in favor of not listening to Bruce play the guitar and adjourning?
That was not the motion.
Oh,
I'd love to hear Bruce.
Motion to adjourn.
Yeah.
Yeah. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I'm sure that Bruce, if you'd like to play, Lisa can leave the Zoom open and folks can.
Yeah. So when it all goes blank, that's a hint.
Yeah. So thanks everybody for your effort on this, and it goes out to staff and the reports. I think we're done an hour earlier because everybody's on top of things, and we've got a great knowledgeable group, and so great work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.